Alright, the other thing I wanted to show you guys is how to make some basically aperture eyelids without actually making apertures for the eyelids. And this is like a super janky way of doing things. I would like to be clear that the better setup would absolutely be to make functioning apertures, but this will totally work in a pinch. So what you're going to do is basically, I'm just making a sort of cylinder in the center of my eye. I'm going to give that cylinder some caps, say maybe this many. I'm not being particularly precise here, honestly. And then I'm going to just go in, Control 1 to isolate, select this because I don't want to look at it. I am going to actually having indecision. So what I'm going to do is actually go through and do this perhaps a little bit differently than I normally would. I say normally would, I've never actually done this before. So grain of salt, but I'm going to grab this, I will shrink it down ever so slightly so it's a little bit thinner, and I'm going to always close these holes, especially because this is a very visible one. Edit mesh, bridge that together. What I'm going to do is go in and add some extra edge loops into this. So I will do one on either side of this eyeball, and you can actually do a thing if you open up the tool settings. Instead of doing relative distance from edge, I want equal distance, so that you can see it's not doing the thing where it is like farther away here and really close there. So I'm just going to add one edge loop on either side of this face thing. Hooray. And this is because I'm going to do a thing, again, it's better to model actual apertures, but if you are doing, ooh, hello. If you're doing just like a crappy little thing with blend shapes, this is one piece. I'm going to smooth this, and you will need some more edges to hold things in place. So what I'm going to do, grab pretty much, ooh, what the? Grab one edge on either side, on the same side of, what am I saying? You have bunches of 3 edge loops. Pick either the left or the right side and select that side for every single loop going around here. I don't know if that makes any sense. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing and it will then make sense. Oh shoot. Okay. And then go through and make sure that you didn't select anything on the side or the back of the model. You only want to grab the front ones. Take those and just shift, shoot, that was dumb. Shift them outwards. So this is, I did this actually incorrectly, but what I was going for is actually grabbing, what was I going for? I have lost my mind. Okay. Yeah. I meant to grab the edges and not the actual whole face. That is not how smooth modeling works. And again, just make sure you don't have any things selected on the back or sides of this. Then when you drag these forward, this should make a much better sort of aperture looking thing. And if you've placed them a little weird, you can always sort of rotate them ever so slightly, so it's a little bit of a tighter angle than you had previously. Again, this is not fantastic, but it'll get you to a place. I think what I'm actually going to do is add one more loop in here because this is like way softer than I want it. So I'm just going to do, again, just with my insert edge loop tool, come in and pop in some little loops. Okay. I'm not used to the fixed distance from surface. It's like strangely weird to use for me now. I'm just like, oh god, what am I doing? Alright, so you can see that's like a little bit of a harder crease there. That's really all I was shooting for. I'm also going to go ahead and add one loop in here just to sort of harden that little crease area. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll just freeze transformations on the shape. It doesn't really matter to me that much right now. And I am paranoid and I always duplicate my shapes. So I'll label this, duplicate it, and then just sort of hide this. And what I'm going to do is basically come in and use soft select to modify the ever-living crap out of this shape. So what I want is not to have tries in my model. I don't really know why that's a thing, but I'm going to shamelessly ignore that for now. I'm actually, quicker way to select this, grab this, just deselect, oh my, that's why I hate tries. tries to make everything terrible. Alright. Deselect that, and that, and that. Alright. So we have this. What I'm going to do is turn on my soft select just by pressing B. And I would like to actually modify the way that that is working. So if we go into our tool settings, we can do linear. So what this is going to do is it's going to move things evenly, no matter where you are. And you can see that like you can do some really weird sort of like twisting with this now. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to sort of pick a direction that this is going to twist. And I'm going to... Actually, I'm going to start with the twist. So I'm going to sort of pick a, again, sort of amount that I want this to twist. I think that looks kind of cool. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of grab this piece and basically save this piece. I'm going to just sort of duplicate this. I'll hide that duplicate, and then I will grab the same faces again. At this point, so when apertures work, they usually sort of like open like, hello. Have we gotten rid of the settings? Oh, right. Okay, not a problem. All right, so what we have is, you notice like now when I did soft select, it was behaving a little bit differently. So like when I rotated it, you'll notice instead of, if I rotate this back, instead of making straight lines, it makes like weird wiggly lines. That's just a sort of way that this works. With soft select, I've changed the direction. So I have this shape stashed here, and this is why I always save shapes. Because I can go back if weird stuff like that happens because I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is, actually, I will unhide this and just sort of stick it over here so I can look at it. Excuse me. So I will grab those same faces as before. Turn off soft select because it's hard to see normally. And again, just deselect all of these dumb faces. Selection by omission. Alright. Grab these, turn on soft select again. And this time I still want it like a tiny bit rotated, but not all that much. And what I'm going to do is sort of start scaling this outward. And I'm going to actually unsmooth the model while I'm doing this. And as I do this, I'm going to sort of very slowly change my soft select radius. I'm trying to basically push this out as far as I can without having A, clipping geometry, and B, you can see like if I go really far, it's clipping, but it's also like sort of a crazy wiggly shape, which is not ideal. So I'll just sort of go through and do this. And again, this is like a sort of tedious way to do this. There are absolutely, you know, more elegant ways. More elegant, I would mostly actually say just like make a functioning aperture, but that's kind of annoying sometimes. So I'll just sort of go back and, gross. Alright, I'm just going to leave this as a really janky aperture eye for now, actually, because hopefully this will be enough for you guys to sort of get the idea of what I'm doing, and then if you guys want to do this, just do it much neater than I did. But ideally you could, you know, open this as much as you possibly could. Okay, I'm going to stop because this is not getting better. So basically we have, again, sort of open aperture and closed aperture. By no means is this perfect, but it kind of resembles an aperture. So what we're going to do is set up a blend shape between these two shapes. So I am going to grab the... It's been a hot minute since I've set up a blend shape. I'm just going to grab one of these shapes. I will label these, so iris closed, iris open, and I'm going to grab the blendable shape. I'll move that forward slightly. I feel like that should be, you know, in front of the eyeball. Seems like it would make sense. And then I'm going to go into deform and blend shape. So I believe, unless I'm going insane, basically the premise of a blend shape is, and I'm showing you the premise of the blend shape so I can remember how to make a blend shape. It's definitely not what's happening here. Grab this, do this. So you should be able to sort of select your object, and I think you then select the piece of geometry you want it to mimic, set up a blend shape, and you can, if you want to, there's a few different sort of settings. Check topology is if you have the exact same topology, which we do. Delete targets if you turn this on. I don't recommend this actually. Whatever shape you're trying to blend into, it's going to remove that piece of geometry. So if you ever want to change it, you basically have to like unset up your blend shape and like reset it up, and it's a whole thing. If you have the mesh there, you can just sort of like unhide it and modify it. So I don't recommend turning that on. And then origin is going to be either local or world space. Local usually I'll use if like these, the pieces are in different spots. World space would be if they're in the same spot. Test blend. I'm just going to apply that. And one of these, you can see we have this lovely output here, and with this little sphere one here. Okay, so clearly I've set this up the wrong direction. So the last thing you select is the thing that you want the blend shape on. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete history on both of these objects. So I want this sphere to turn into this. I'm going to select the sphere, and then the shape that I want to modify, apply a test blend, click on the sphere, and you should then be able to go in and change that like you want to. So that's the basic premise of a blend shape. I'm going to use that on the eyeball to set up this ridiculous, ridiculous iris. So we have this sort of open version, and I want to grab the closed version of the iris and the blendable version of this iris, which I guess is kind of the same thing at this point. So again, just go to deform, blend shape. I'm going to use the same settings I did last time. And if we've done this at all correctly, you will have this little button here, and we can then sort of close the iris. And you can see, again, it's not pretty. If you're going to do this, like seriously, you should, you know, make some better blend shapes, but it does give you the sort of idea of an iris opening and closing. So hopefully that was vaguely helpful. Also a good tutorial about how to use blend shapes. So bonus eyelid video, because I decided I want to change one or two things. So for one, I would like this to not clip through the outside of my eyeballs. That would be delightful. And I've also decided that I also don't like how this is clipping through my eyelid. So what I'm going to do is go into this iris close shape, and again, just grab, I'm going to be a little bit less weird about it than I was before, but I'll sort of like grab these vertices here. Okay, I was like, I'll be less weird, then I'm not. Grab these vertices, turn on my soft select, take it to the edge of the eyeball, and just push that outwards. It kind of looks like a weird cupcake actually at this point, which is kind of funny, but I'll do that again, and then I'll just sort of grab like this guy here maybe, and sort of it's grabbing the shapes on the back automatically, and just sort of like round that out ever so slightly more. And you'll notice that again, as we did that, because I have saved this closed target and not deleted it, I have the shape on my updated blendable that is doing the same thing. So it's much easier to sort of change stuff, and you'll notice now, again, it's doing sort of this, where it's still clipping a little bit, but if I wanted to, I could sort of add more blend shapes to, like corrective blend shapes to fix that. So basically you would just, you know, make a temporary blend shape for this where the eyes are coming out more, but I really just don't care nearly enough. So this is going to be what I sort of leave for my eyeball. Temp shapes. And I'm just going to go through and hide these, sort of group everything together. And I will show you how to hook these up to the rest of the body if you want to. So like if I wanted, you know, to control the eyelids on the eye control or something like that, I'll show you how to hook that up. In this case, I think I'm just going to add it on the head control. So I will do add attribute, and long name is going to be Eyelid. I want this as a float with a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 1. And that was actually the right eyelid. Whoops, small. And that is why they let you edit the names of things later. Alright, so set that up, and then I would like to go in and actually change that name because that was dumb and it will confuse the crap out of me. Select your attribute, edit attribute, and just rename this as large eyelid. Great. And why do they never add spaces? It makes me sad. Okay. Great. Alright, so that's done. What we're going to do is go in and basically just hook this up to the blend shape that we have created. Before we do that, I am going to sort of just organize everything in my outliner. So we have the large eyeball, lens, large. So I'm just going to pop that in there. And I think, okay, yeah, I still have to constrain that. So At some point I'll attach it to the head, but I will not do that right now. So what you want to do, go into your connection editor again, in case you're not seeing a trend with my love of the connection editor. And then you would want to go grab this little, actually, where is my blend shape? There should be a blend shape node somewhere. Grab this test blend here and do reload right, and you'll see that it should come up with all of the settings for the blend shape itself, unless I'm going crazy. So somewhere there should be, oh wait, no, sorry, that's the geometry. Where am I going? All right, when in doubt, if you can't find things, go into your node editor and, okay, great. Yes. Give me like 2 minutes. And then, what was I doing? Okay, so find your blend shape. Just click on this little button, it'll expand everything, and then you should be able, theoretically, to actually find this blend shape, reload that, and now you have the blend shape in there. Easiest way I found to find things, not particularly easy. Alright, so we have the test blend. Wait, what the heck? I'll come back in a part 3. So 5 minutes later, when I realized I usually actually do not hook blend shapes up with the connection editor, I'm going to close my connection editor and use a set-driven key for this. So go into your animation menu, key, set-driven key, and set. And what you want to do is, I realized I did actually have useful content in that. All right, really quick before I go into setting this key, it's the same thing I did for all the other ones, but if you ever want to find a blend shape node in your outliner, what you can do is make sure it's named something that, like, you know what it's called. Go to display, uncheck DAG objects only, and it'll show a bunch of extra stuff. Then you should be good to just like type in the name of whatever you're looking for and find that. So in this case, it pulled up my little blend shape. So we have that. This is what it looks like if you don't search for anything. It brings up like all the stuff, so like all of the history on your objects, any skin you've bound, more history on your objects. Like, it's so UV history apparently. But again, so if you just search for blend, it'll pull that up. What we want to do is load the blend shape in as a driven and load the head controller on with a, what am I saying? For the driver. I've made some little attributes for this. So I'm just going to grab the large eyelid and the iris closed, and I'm going to say that when this is at 0, or when this is at 1, the eye is going to be closed. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit key. I will grab this blend shape, open the iris, and go back to my small eyelid and enter this value of 0, and go ahead and key that. So what this should give us, theoretically, if I've done this correctly, when we scrub through this, I think I may have hooked that up incorrectly. Did I? Oh, I think I just didn't set this to open. Question mark. Okay, so when we scrub through this attribute on the head controller, it should toggle that goofy little eyelid that we made. So that's usually if I, excuse me, if I need to drive something with a blend shape, that's generally how I'll do it, via sort of set-driven keys and just attaching things to the body. So really quick, I will go through that again because this was a very, very hodgepodge video, for which I do apologize, cough. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this entire eyeball. This has all of the blendable shapes and all that good stuff. And grab this, and I am just going to do a modify center pivot, and snap that into my tiny eyeball. And I want directly on the center, which it looks like I have. I'm going to go through and just sort of go ahead and shrink all of this down until it is the correct shape for my eyeball. And again, just sort of trying to avoid clipping as much as possible, which is kind of hard because of the way I've set up the size. So I'm just going to like pop this out a little bit like that. All right, so again, I'm going to I'm actually curious to see if this has a blend shape on it, and you'll notice it does not, so that duplicated object will need to be set up with a blend shape again. So grab your inner blend shape, and actually before I do that, I would like to freeze the transformations on that group. So grab the object that you want to shift into, the object you want to modify, and then do deform, blend shape. And once again, you should have this goofy little opening and closing eyeball thingamadoodle. Except this time it looks like it's actually shifting through space. Oh, McAfee, nobody wants you. So what I'm going to do is just sort of undo that. Great. And if you delete history on the object, it'll get rid of the blend shape as well. So again, grab the inner object, grab the outer object, and this time I'm going to check the settings of this. Check topology in between. Interesting. That's very strange. For the sake of argument, I think I was in the modeling menu when I set this up before, and that should not make any difference, but I'm curious to see if it for some reason does. It does not. Okay. That actually could explain why, when I was using this other one, why it suddenly started clipping through the head. No, that one's staying in place. Oh, that's very strange. Okay. So my silly bad fix for this is going to be to just shift this eyelid forward so that it's in the same place as the blendable eyelid. And where is the blendable eyelid right now? Let's grab this closed eye and just sort of... Ugh. Alright. Shoot. Ah. Okay. Undo numerous times. Grab this. Delete history on this. I'm just going to push this forward slightly so that it's not clipping through my head. And again, this is not the ideal way to do things, but this is the Allison is being lazy way to do things. And it's still moving. Delightful. What if I grab this iris closed and I freeze transformations on that? Okay, so apparently if you move it slightly forward and you freeze the transformation, so it's just at 0, 0, 0, it's not going to shift. Why that is, I'm honestly not entirely sure, but we're just going to kind of run with this for now. So we have the blend shape set up. And again, I'm going to name this something more logical, like small eyelid blend. And make sure DAG objects are turned off. Search for blend or something, whatever would pull up that eyelid. And here you can see again we have this small eyelid blend. So I'm going to just go ahead and load the driven and set this option that we have here. So theoretically, I just want to double check and make sure that like at 0, this eyelid here is open, and at 1 it's going to be closed. It's easy to keep things consistent, that way you can just sort of scrub the values and have both eyelids open or both eyelids closed. So it seems like that's sort of set up. I'm going to go ahead and hit key, set this to 1, go back into my blend shape, set that to 1, that should be closed, and then set another keyframe. So hopefully I've done this correctly the second time. Apparently it just never works the first time for me because I'm cursed. And go ahead. Oh, whoopsie. I was setting this for the large eyeball value. That's awkward. Okay, so we're going to do this backwards. I'm going to go ahead and keyframe with the small eye value at 1. This eye is going to be closed. So I'm going to go ahead and key that. I'm going to set the small eye value to 0. This is why I hate set-driven keys. I set them up wrong every single time I do it. And set the iris to be open. Go ahead and keyframe that. And now, theoretically, if we scrub through this, we have functioning eyelids. And because we've synced them up, you'll notice that like if they're both 1, you can just sort of open and close them at the same time without needing to super worry about any weird like number values for things. So that is a really weird, awkward video on setting up goofy aperture eyelids the less than elegant way.